It's
Let's
now
ride.
time for the words that are recited before each and every game here at Dodger Stadium. Take it away, Finn.
It's time for Dodger baseball.
What is going on, Dodgers fans? Thank you for listening to the last regular season episode of the Incline Dodgers podcast, brought to you by Fansided, and your Los Angeles Dodgers finish with a franchise record best 111 wins and 51 losses. Maybe the greatest Dodgers team ever, but there's still a whole second chapter to be played out in the postseason. We got a number of great questions on today's podcast, so we are going to address your questions regarding postseason roster construction and some other fun things along the way. So before we get started on that, David Rosenthal, how's it going? How did you feel with the Dodgers closing things out? And despite, maybe a few sluggish games against the Rockies, who really cares? Because 111 wins is what we're going to remember at the end of the day.
Yeah, I'm glad they kind of tightened it up the last game of the season. Trey Turner got off the schneid there, 2 hits, including a home run. Freddie Freeman, three hits, I think. And Bellinger looks great too. The bullpen still looks good. Kershaw looked great. A really, really solid way to end a historic season. You don't really want to go into the playoffs, losing 4 in a row. I mean, that's just not the kind of tone you want to set, albeit we're waiting a week to play, so it's a completely new season anyway, but that is a nice way to end the season. No more injuries like Muncy last year. Now they just got to rest up and get ready for the Mets and the Padres.
Yep, I believe Cody Bellinger finished that 6-game series against the Rockies going 9 for 19 with 2 home runs, a number of RBIs, looking better, raising that batting average slowly but surely. Jake Reiner, what are your thoughts on what's going on with these Los Angeles Dodgers?
It's just what an incredible team. I think that it's hard as fans to appreciate these Dodgers teams as we've grown to know them over the past few years because of the lofty expectations of winning a World Series every single year. I think that out of any team previously constructed, this team is I have the most confidence in out of any of the teams in the past years. And the reason I have the most confidence in them is because despite all of the injuries, mostly to the pitching staff, the starting rotation and bullpen, they've not skipped a beat at all. They've been solid all year long, even when the offense kind of went through a couple of valleys there during the middle of the season. The pitching never wavered. It was never had a stretch where the pitching, let you down in any way. Even after, a few losses in a row, you'd have Gonslin come in and shut down the losing streak, or Arias come in and shut down the losing streak. It's just what an incredible group of guys. And to David's point, you don't want to limp into the playoffs, but I wasn't too worried either way because they got a 5-day layoff now. So even if they were lighting the world on fire or slumping like no one's business, I don't think it would have really translated given the long break, which is kind of interesting because, you play for that number 1 spot, you play for the top record and you get it and you get the bye. But is that necessarily a good thing, given the break in between? Obviously, you don't have to play a 3-game series, which that's the huge advantage. But the disadvantage is you're kind of having to resort to these simulated games to get ready for the postseason.
Yeah, well, we'll find out since this is the first year of the new expanded postseason format. Clayton Kershaw recorded the final Dodgers victory of the season, and this has to be statistically one of the best he's ever looked heading down into October postseason. He finished over his last 7 starts going 5-0 with a 1.54 ERA in that victory on Wednesday today against the Rockies. 9 strikeouts over 5 innings, gave up just 1 run. So we'll get into it in just a second with the postseason roster construction, but Dave Roberts did confirm that it will be either Julio Urias or Clayton Kershaw starting game one, with the thought in mind that the starter of game one has to be the most available to start a necessary game five. I don't really know why Roberts is thinking ahead to game fives already when let's focus on game one, because my opinion on the postseason is you should go into every game like it's game seven and just get the wins out of the way. So
is he thinking that if Urias pitches in game two, that he could potentially come back for game five? Is that kind of the thinking there?
No, it'd be game one and then have him available to start a game five if necessary.
Okay, so then what are we doing? I mean, it's such an obvious
Nothing. This is a complete smokescreen. It's not beneficial to just say, yeah, Julio Urias is our game one starter. Everybody in the goddamn Dodgers organization knows it's going to be Julio Urias. We all know it's going to be Julio Urias, but it does not behoove Dave Roberts to just say, yeah, it's Julio Urias. You might as well throw a little smokescreen, give a little ambiguity to the Mets or the Padres. There's no benefit to saying it right now. That's what it is.
But it's not like we have like some ace in the hole that no one's ever heard of or ever seen before. It's not, I mean, it just makes no sense.
You know, you might as well just try to do what you can gamesmanship wise.
I mean, I don't want Kershaw on short rest or anything close to that.
It's going to be Julio.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. So there really is no other choice.
They lined it up that way too. You know, they had Urias pitch the second to last game of the season, and then Kershaw after that. So it makes sense.
The format has it game one to game five. There's a 4-day rest, right? Okay.
Yeah, Wednesday to Sunday, I believe.
But shut up, Dave. This is all for nothing. They've all started on 4 days rest. Let's move on. I just wanted to throw in there that Clayton Kershaw today passed up Cy Young for the most all-time strikeouts. Now Kershaw ranks, I think, 24th or 23rd. So
literal Cy Young.
Also, just real quick for the NLDS. So if there is a game five, they would play game 4 on the road on the 15th and play game 5 at home the next day, which seems stupid scheduling wise, but that's what it would be.
They're trying to have less days off this year, but I don't know. It's tough with it, you know, if let's say you're playing the Mets.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly.
I mean, Padres, it wouldn't matter so much, but you know, going from east to west, that's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So the first question to kick off the show comes from Jay Belshir. Would be cool to hear each of your guys' NLDS roster predictions. So I'll go first. The starting rotation, Julio, and we'll start with the pitchers because that's more interesting in my opinion. Julio Urias, Clayton Kershaw, Tyler Anderson, and Tony Gonslin. For a while there, I had to be Darth Maul fighting you two off, saying that no matter what, they are going to start Gonslin if healthy. You guys were on the Dustin May train, which I can't fault you, but let's be real. Tony Gonsolin earned that spot. I think Dustin May has a bright future, but he didn't really prove that he should be starting over a Tony Gonsolin.
Correct me if I'm wrong, David, but we weren't saying that if Tony Gonsolin was healthy, we'd still pick Dustin May. I mean, I at least was saying if Tony Gonsolin is healthy, he should be in there. But if he's not, I would take Dustin May over Andrew Heaney. I think that was the argument.
And this is all, you know, I was under the premise that Dustin May was going to be healthy.
Right.
You know, I was talking about a healthy Dustin May.
Well, the way it started off was Tony Gonsolin wasn't going to come back in time. He's not going to show you enough. So,
well, yeah,
even the thought of leaving him off the roster altogether versus Dustin May, which we'll get to in a second. Roberts didn't even say he's a lock to make the roster at this point. I think he'll make it. But so anyways, I got Evan Phillips, Chris Martin, Yency Almonte, Blake Trinan, based off the information we were told today by Dave Roberts, Tommy Kahnle, Bruce Gratterall, Dustin May, leaving two lefties out of the bullpen in Alex Vesia and Andrew Heaney. So that means guys like Caleb Ferguson, David Price, and Craig Kimbrell are not on my initial NLDS roster prediction.
Yeah, I mean, going off of what Dave said today, I'm doing the same thing. I think the first three are a lock, obviously, and I think they will go with Gonsolin to start and throw in either Heaney or May to follow him. So, yeah, my 13 guys are Urias, Kershaw, Anderson, Gonsolin, May, Heaney, which is 6. Phillips is 7. Vesia is 8. Martin is 9. Gratterall is 10. Almonte is 11. Canely is 12. And Trinan is 13.
Other than that, you can leave off Kimbrel, Price, and Ferguson. I'm a little disappointed though in Ferguson because for the longest time he was lights out, and then second half it's just been he's been kind of wobbly and hittable.
Yeah, and it's definitely a risk to only carry Vesia as your primary lefty reliever and pretty much only lefty reliever because Heaney's not going to be featured in multiple games in my opinion. But if Trinan is healthy, you absolutely have to put him on there over Ferguson, even if it's, right versus left. You have to.
Right. And also Trinan, like you said, Trinan can get both righties and lefties out, but so can Phillips.
Yeah. And Vesia, frankly.
Yeah.
And probably Chris Martin. Probably all of them, to be honest.
Yeah. Chris Martin looks like the best pitcher on the planet right now. I mean, what the hell is this? He should be closing games, frankly.
Kevin knew.
Somehow.
Yeah, I mean, just to add on Caleb Ferguson, it seemed like he was a lock for the longest time, but over his last 7 games, a whip of 2.5, even the last month or last 30 games, a whip of 1.25. So he just was not consistent finding the strike zone. Oftentimes he would get himself in a pickle, but he had the strikeout stuff to get out of it. But I think you just have him in the tank in case one of these guys get hurt. I am a little nervous that they're just giving a spot to Blake Trinan because he's barely pitched all season and we don't really know what we're going to get. He really hasn't pitched in much high leverage at all this season. And I believe the caveat is if they have to take him off the roster due to an injury, then he's out for the season.
Yeah, I mean,
I thought it's out for the postseason. I thought it was just
it's
that
out
round
for the next series. So if you have to take him out for the NLDS, he's automatically off for the NLCS. He could come back for the World Series, but frankly, with what's happened with him this year, if they have to take him off, they're just going to shut him down. It doesn't make sense to just keep doing this. But yeah, I mean, I think you can, if he's healthy, he's going to be solid. When he's pitched this year, which has been like 5 games, he's been good.
I think out of anyone coming back from an injury to be able to be thrown into the fire like this, I don't think there's anybody else I'd trust other than Blake Trinan. So if they're going to do that, then, I am on board.
Yeah. And if you're throwing Gonslin out there for game 4 after just 1 start, which was 2 innings and 40 pitches, you kind of just have to send it with Trinan too.
LASF NYC, would you rather carry Caleb Ferguson or David Price for the postseason roster? Well, we already discussed that neither of them are going to make it at this point, but if I had to choose one, Caleb Ferguson.
Yeah. Caleb Ferguson hasn't really pitched well at all recently, but just stuff wise, I know Price has been solid, but I also got to go with Caleb Ferguson. And I wouldn't shut the door completely on him making it. We're still not 100% sure on Trinan or May, so he might get on there.
Roberts hasn't committed to not having Kimbrel on there, right?
No, still a possibility, but I don't see a path.
Yeah, there's just no way. I think Caleb Ferguson over Dustin May is the potential one shocker we might get. But with Kimbrel, no, I don't see any path to him on that roster now.
Yeah.
Blake Harris, friend of the show, tweeted out that in today's outing, Kimbrel struck out the side for the first time this season. It's unbelievable how successful this Dodgers team has been with this just gasoline can for a closer.
All right. He hasn't been that bad. Okay.
He has.
He's not a complete gasoline can. He had like 6 blown saves all year. Okay.
He's got 7 losses tagged to his name.
Well, I don't really put too much stock into losses.
Let me just say, imagine if Kenley did this.
Oh, it would have been nasty.
Kenley did do this. He's done this. Kenley's done this before.
I know, but he hasn't been defended like you've defended Kimbrel.
I don't think I'm defending him. I'm just saying it hasn't been a complete train wreck.
2019 sucked because they didn't really want to go to Kenley Jansen at all in the NLDS, and I think that was part of the Dodgers' downfall. 2020, we've already touched on this a lot, but he closed out games in the NLCS, and yeah, he was part of that blown save in Game 4. But I mean, most of 2020, Jansen was rock solid. And then last year, was last season, he was great. So
He was great last year.
He's not as bad as I think some Dodgers fans try to write the narrative. Kimbrel was like a notch better than Brandon League. But on the offense side of things now, another 13 batters to name. If I had to guess the starting lineup, it's Mookie Betts, Trey Turner, Freddie Freeman, Will Smith, Max Muncy, Justin Turner, Trace Thompson, Gavin Lux, Cody Bellinger. So that's 9. And then the bench, Chris Taylor, Joey Gallo, Austin Barnes, and Miguel Vargas for me.
So do you left Gallo off?
He left Hanser Alberto off.
Okay.
Yeah. To me, like, I have a tough time with Vargas, and the problem I have with is why wasn't he given more at bats? I don't understand. He should have been in there every single day, getting at bats, and he did come through in a couple of different spots. But man, I don't know. He's just not. I don't think his bat is good enough right now to keep him on this roster. His glove, I was at the game last night, and there was a fly ball hit to left. It looked like he had no idea what was going on out there.
Well,
so
he's not an outfielder.
That's why I would go with Alberto over Vargas just for defensive purposes.
I'm going with Alberto over Vargas as well. I don't think these guys are going to get any at bats anyway. And especially with Chris Taylor's injury, Dave Roberts said he's confident he'll be able to play in the NLDS, but with a sore neck, you never know what's going to happen with that. And if somebody gets hurt in the infield, Alberto can play any of the positions. So I think you need that infield defense, especially up the middle, in case of an injury or a late substitution or whatever happens. I just don't see a path for more than one at bat at most for either of these guys. So I think you go with the defense.
Yeah, I mean, this is a old subject at this point, and I don't think either of those guys are going to get meaningful at bats. But I'm scarred for life because of seeing Steven Souza Jr. bat in high leverage spots against Tyler Matzek and Billy McKinney getting at bats. So if the Dodgers,
that's on Roberts, because he should have put Lux up there, in one of those spots at least.
I know, and I'm just torn because having the defense is important, but I feel like we have guys regardless who can cover those holes if someone gets hurt, versus if we get into extra innings and we need someone to bat and we have second and third and one out. I don't really want Alberto up there. I'd rather just run the table with Vargas. But
are you assuming someone broke their leg? Why are we even putting either of these guys up there?
I'm not, but I've thrown this out there numerous times that if Joey Gallo gets into the game as a pinch hitter and now he's going to have to face a lefty reliever, you don't really want Joey Gallo facing a lefty reliever. You want to put in a right-handed bat. And there might be Taylor already in the lineup, Thompson in the lineup. You don't really want to go with Barnes because he's your backup catcher. So it's just
why I don't want Joey Gallo in the game either. Frankly, I think he's been really bad as a Dodger. I think he hits a couple home runs, gets a couple walks, and the rest is a complete train wreck. He's left more men on base in the past 2 weeks than I think Freddie Freeman has all year. So look, I don't want to see Gallo in the playoffs either. I want to rock with the same 10 to 11 guys, period. Trace Thompson and Chris Taylor kind of alternating, and that's about it. And Barnes if you need be, but that's it.
I still have this weird hope that Gallo is going to come through in a big spot.
I do too.
I trust the veteran. So that answers your question.
I do not.
Ray and Man 22, is Joey Gallo in or out?
He's in.
The only in or out that you have, the only in or out you have to really worry about is not in or out, but in and out burger, because that's happening and Joey Gallo is happening. They are both going to be staples in Los Angeles this October.
Yeah.
Staple?
Also, Dave Roberts said as much.
Staple.
Yep.
How about just a tertiary character?
I think every single person on this postseason roster is going to contribute one way or another. I truly do. I think Dave Roberts, there's just something about him where he has to use everybody, and I don't like it, but that's just what I'm accustomed to seeing all these years now.
Yeah, he does like to use the full roster.
All right, so this is an interesting question coming from Catch the Blues. Ryan, discuss the Mets' strategy of not pitching DeGrom potentially unless there's a game 3 in the wild card. Is that a mistake? So first of all, to set the narrative here, the Dodgers will be playing the winner of the Mets and Padres series in a best of 3. Max Scherzer is confirmed to start game 1. Apparently, according to John Heyman in the New York Post, Buck Showalter is throwing out the idea that they might not go to Jacob deGrom in a game 2 because if they're up 1-0, they'd rather roll the dice with Chris Bassett, hope he slams the door, and then the Mets move on to face the Dodgers and have Jacob deGrom available for game 1.
See, you're talking about how, you're worried that Dave Roberts is planning for 5 games. This is not a good move by Buck Showalter. I don't like this move. I mean, what are we doing? You're playing with fire, messing around in a 3-game series, and it puts a lot of pressure on Chris Bassett. But also, like, wouldn't you want Scherzer DeGrom? Boom, boom, knock it out, no questions asked. Like, don't take a risk. Don't let the Padres back in. I don't know. It seems like they have way too much confidence in their team, or not enough respect for the Padres. I don't know which one it is, but it's not a good strategy. If the Dodgers were thinking about doing this, I would not be happy.
So I do think this would be an incredibly ballsy move by the Mets. I mean, that's putting a lot of faith in Scherzer and Chris Bassett, specifically Chris Bassett. But I'm going to put on my conspiracy tinfoil hat here for a minute. Jacob deGrom has been pretty bad his last couple outings out. I want to say his last 4 or 5 outings, maybe a little less than that. So I think this might possibly be to try to give him a little more time to figure out what the hell is going on. But at the same time, like, even if he's been atrocious, like, you got to pitch him. So this would be a certified insano move by the Mets, but they are the Mets, so it would check out. And I could totally see this completely backfiring, and they just lose the first 2 games, period. I could 100% see that. And we'll get into our predictions in a little bit, but you can kind of guess where I'm leaning with this.
Well, if they lose game 1, then are they saying that DeGrom will go game 2?
Yeah.
I didn't read the full New York Post article, but still, I mean, what if they lose game 2? They're not going to pitch him game 3? Who are they going to pitch game 3?
They would pitch deGrom. It's all contingent on the first game. They go down 0-1. They throw deGrom in game 2.
See, look, if they're up 1-0, fucking end it. Like, just like do what you can to win both those games. It makes no sense.
It's the Mets. They tend to not make a lot of sense.
Also, it's worth noting that all of the wild card games are going to be played in the team with the better records home ballpark.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I don't really know what to make of this because I actually do think Chris Bassett is a pretty solid pitcher. I know he finished with like a 3.5 ERA and pretty much did well against everyone except that final Braves game where they needed to win it and he blew it. But it was brought up earlier, and I kind of agree that maybe the Mets just don't have a lot of faith in the Padres bats because they really are a 2-bat team. So I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. It's either going to be the greatest managerial decision of all time if they have deGrom ready for game 1, or it'll be the talking point in the New York media for the next 4 or 5 months, assuming the Yankees don't do something even worse.
Have the Padres announced who they are going with?
They'll go with Darvish. They have to.
And Musgrove, I assume.
Yeah.
It's Darvish because they pushed his start back a day so that it would line up.
Yeah, he's their clear ace. But on the deGrom front, his last 4 outings going back to September 13th against Chicago, 6 innings, 3 runs. Against the Pirates, 5 innings, 3 runs. Against the A's, 4 innings, 5 runs. And against the Braves, 6 innings, 3 runs. So that's not usual deGrom. So clearly he's been struggling. And I happen to think that does have slightly something to do with this potential strategy.
unlike the Mets, who are having some DeGrom issues, friend of the show, Rowan Kavner, tweeted out a cool stat today that the Dodgers are the first team since the 1919 Reds to have 4 pitchers with 20 starts and have sub 260 ERAs. So, of course, that's Reyes, Kershaw, Anderson, and Gonslin. Just shows you the fortitude of how deep the Dodgers starting rotation has been. And Andrew Heaney deserves some flowers too, because he finished with a very low 3 ERA. So 72, 73 innings, 110 strikeouts. As a number 5 starter, I think Dodgers fans are spoiled. That's actually pretty damn good.
Oh yeah, you take that every time for sure. And it's just really nice to not have these guys just absolutely gassed going into the playoffs like it was last year. Obviously, we're missing Walker Buehler, which was a huge bummer in the beginning of the year. But in terms of health, rest, stamina, all the above, you can't ask for much more going into this postseason.
Definitely. So yeah, unfortunately, Freddie Freeman does not take home the batting crown. It goes to Jeff McNeil. I think Freeman lost it by like
his weird bat.
Point.
Have you seen his bat?
1 point.
Have you seen Jeff McNeil's bat?
What's wrong with it?
It's just, it looks weird. It looks like the knob is almost identical to the barrel. It's weird.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I hate him.
And then Freeman came up 1 hit shy of his goal of having 200 hits. He finished with 199, but he did get 100 RBIs in his first season with the Dodgers, 21 home runs. I'll have more stats on him later. Was there anything else you guys wanted to talk about Dodgers postseason related or recent game stretch before we move on?
I'm happy to say that Dino Ebel has tightened it up. He's been a little more conservative with his sends at third. I think he knows he was a bit over the top and maybe a little too aggressive. He's understood his base runners now and the situation, and I'm happy to see that improvement. Actually,
keep it going, Dino. I'm watching you.
All right, let's do our wild card round predictions. Mets, Padres, who wins?
Well, when you look at the two teams on paper, the Mets are by far and away the better team. There's no doubt about that. But it's hard to pick a winner out of these two teams because both franchises have shown that they love to choke, and it's going to be a really fun series because I really don't know how it's going to turn out. I mean, my guess would be that the Mets obviously have the edge and that the Mets will move on to face the Dodgers, but I don't know. The problem is we've not seen how the Padres are going to be able to score. That's the issue. And I think the Mets have the edge with their lineup, and who knows, but Juan Soto could absolutely go off. I mean, he's had a kind of underwhelming year. So if he goes off and LOL.
He ain't playing.
And Machado, excuse me. If Soto and Machado go off, then they have a chance. But I don't know. The rest of that lineup is kind of weak. Whereas the Mets lineup is kind of potent to compare them to the Padres.
I'm taking the Padres in 2 games.
Wow. Sweep.
I think the Mets
on the
are
road.
going to miss Starling Marte quite a bit. I think Scherzer and Bassett are not going to live up to it if they choose not to go with DeGrom. If they choose to go with DeGrom, then maybe I'll take San Diego, but in 3. But I'm taking the Padres either way. I think the Padres are going in kind of hot. They've kind of found their stride a little bit, and I think we're going to get a 2020 NLDS rematch.
Forgive me, Starling Marte is not healthy.
Nope.
He's not going to be there.
He will not be there.
Okay. That doesn't change
unless something, crazy, unless they somehow get him in there, but he's been out.
How are the Padres going to score though?
I think Tatis and Machado, now you got me saying it. I think Soto and Machado and University of Michigan product Jake Cronenworth and Josh Bell and Brandon Drury can do enough. I think Ha-Seong Kim is okay. Alfaro can hit a home run every now and again. So I think they'll score. Frankly, I don't think the Mets lineup is better at all. Like, I really don't.
I do.
I don't.
Jeff
I am-
McNeil, Pete Alonso,
Oh, you
Brandon
love
Nimmo.
Jeff McNeil. You like treat. Oh no, is it who?
Kevin loves
loves
Jeff McNeil.
All right.
He just
I
won the
don't- I
batting
don't-
crown.
Okay, so he can. I don't think he's
Francisco
gonna.
Lindor. That's a good lineup.
Mark
Mark
Canha. I'm sticking with my prediction. I'm taking the Padres in 2 games.
There's been 4 New York Mets teams to reach 100 wins. Obviously, this being the 4th. 1969, they won the World Series. 1986, they won the World Series. 1988, they lost to the Dodgers in the NLCS. I'm picking the Mets because you can laugh at the Mets all you want. They've won World Series. They have players that have been there. The Padres are maybe the worst franchise in all of Major League Baseball. No way in hell I'm picking them.
For the record, I'm just going to say Mets in 3, just because we needed to give that, but that's my prediction.
I'll go Mets in 3 as well. Cardinals, Phillies. We can make this one quicker.
Huh.
All right,
I like the Phillies. I like the Phillies starting pitching better than I like the Cardinals starting pitching. And I think that the lineups, while I do like Goldschmidt and Arenado, I think that the Phillies can run up the score. I mean, with Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber and Rhys Hoskins and Real Muto, I think those guys have what it takes to score a ton of runs on any given day. So I'm going to go with the Phillies on this one, and I'm going to go Phillies in 3.
I like it. I think this is going 3 games. And I think the Cardinals eke it out at the last minute. I think it's even in the 3rd game, I think it's tied going into the late innings. And I think someone for St. Louis kind of becomes a hero. I think they don't have a team of destiny vibe, but they have a move on to the NLDS vibe.
Well, yeah, well, they got that Pujols magic.
Yeah. So I'm taking Cardinals in 3.
I'm picking Cardinals in 2. I think they are better than people think. The Dodgers, Mets, and Braves have been stealing the headlines with their 100+ wins, but this Cardinals roster is deep. They seem well managed. They got the pitching. We've already talked about the hitters. I just don't think the Phillies have enough. So I think Cardinals dominate. On the American League front, Blue Jays, Mariners, the 4-5. What are you guys thinking?
Mariners got that juice. I don't know what it is, but they got something, and they got some magic. First postseason appearance since 2001. They've got a lot of really interesting pieces. That Luis Castillo trade turned out to be pretty damn good. They signed him long-term. Julio Rodriguez having an incredible year. I really do like the Mariners. And so I'm going to pick the Mariners in 3.
Playing in Toronto in the postseason is electric. I think that is going to be a huge advantage for the Blue Jays. I'm taking the Blue Jays in 3. Alek Manoah is a dog.
If this was a 1-game wild card, I would pick the Seattle Mariners. But since it's a best of 3, I'm going Toronto Blue Jays as long as Mitch White doesn't touch the mound.
It's unnecessary. This is so unnecessary to say that.
Catching a stray.
Ridiculous.
Is he even making the
ricochet.
postseason roster?
I don't know, man. Let's just stop.
So they'll go down 0-1 and win the next 2 thanks to, I don't know who their game 1 starter will be, but I would assume
Toronto?
it's Goss. I would assume Toronto goes with Gossman, but I think the other 2 guys
go with Manoah. But those two.
You're right. I think Manoah is the game 1 starter. So yeah, having Gossman go game 2, I think that's huge for them.
Yeah.
All right. The last one is the 3 seed Guardians and the 6 seed Tampa Bay Rays.
I'll start with this one.
Go.
I'm taking the Guardians in 2 games. I think people are sleeping on this team tremendously. I think people are sound asleep on the Cleveland Guardians. They have an elite pitching staff, the best bullpen in baseball, and a solid offense.
Best bullpen.
They have
Come
the
on.
best bullpen in baseball. I am
That
comfortable
belongs in
saying
Los
that.
Angeles.
No. Clase and Karanchak, or however you say his name, that is unfair. They got a couple other dudes too. Once you get to the 8th and the 9th inning, you're not touching them. I'm taking the Guardians in 2, and I know we're not there yet. I'm taking the Guardians to beat the Yankees in 5. Or sorry, in 4.
I'm also going to take the Guardians for very similar reasons. I think people are underestimating them, and we all underestimated them from the beginning. I did not think that team was going to do anything, but they did play in a really terrible division. So there's that factor, but I do think that they have a really great team. And I don't know. I don't really buy the Rays. even though, they've kind of had that consistency over the last few years of getting to the playoffs. I think the Guardians will take it in 2.
I'm going on the other page here in the upset, I guess, as a 6 seed. Tampa Bay Rays for me in 3. They're way more tested. They've been to a World Series not even that long ago. They play in a way tougher division, the American League East. So they're beating teams like the Yankees and the Blue Jays. I think of the 2 teams, they have the best starting pitcher in Shane McClanahan. And then I think even though the Guardians bullpen might be sexier at the top, I think the Rays are way deeper. They have the better manager at this point in Kevin Cash.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Over Terry Francona?
Yeah, I don't know about that.
No, Terry Francona all day.
Yeah.
Not right now. You just pointed out they're kind of the benefactors of a weak division. Here we got the mom and pop Tampa Bay Rays. The Tampa Bay Rays spend no money, and here they are competing in arguably the toughest division every season.
Terry Francona ended the curse in Boston.
Yeah, 18 years ago. It's 2022 now.
Yeah, and he's still a good manager. What has Kevin Cash won? Has Kevin Cash won anything? I'll wait.
Well, an AL pennant.
That's nothing.
He's
also the
two-time.
He's also a 2-time reigning manager of the year. He won't win it 3 times.
Don Mattingly was a manager of the year.
Rick Renteria won manager of the year, and they canned him the next year.
And then what happened to the White Sox since? I'm sure they really regret that one.
It's not my fault they decided to hire a decrepit old, nursing home patient.
I'm sure that if they could go back in time, they would love to have Rick Renteria and give him some muffins, because they fucked that one up big time.
Yeah, how do you fire someone who won manager of the year that offseason?
It's like when the Denver Nuggets fired
George Karl.
Yep, it's very similar. But
yeah, Guardians bullpen is electric, dude. And you also got to factor in, look, they're going to go Bieber and McKenzie game 1 and 2, and then you're going to spin the chamber on either go Cal Quantrill or Plesac for game 3. So that means the other one is going to be pitching out of the bullpen in this wild card series, possibly if you go to game 3.
Who's the game 2 starter and game 3 starter for the Rays?
Exactly. Literally exactly. Rasmussen, maybe. They use a lot of those guys who they'll throw them out there for 4 or 5 innings and then go to the bullpen.
You think Glasnow's making the roster?
I don't know. I was never a Glasnow fan. He gives up the long ball way too much.
Yeah, I mean, I don't read too much Rays news, but I know Jeffrey Springs had a good season. They got Corey Kluber and Rasmussen, like you point out. Maybe JT Chargois breaks out. Breaks the bank for the.
He's still on that team.
Yeah, he's still on that team. I think it's going to be the closest series, but like I said, I'm giving it to the Rays because they have the experience. And we should probably start a new meeting.
All right.
Well, Dodgers fans, 5-day layoff, and then your Los Angeles Dodgers play the winner of the Mets and Padres series Tuesday, October 11th at Dodger Stadium, and that will be aired on the Fox network. You know, one way you could get to that Dodger game with affordable prices, use our friends TickPick. Download the app or go to tickpick.com and use the promo code Incline, all caps, to save $10 off your first purchase of $49 or more. No fees at checkout. You see the price, you know what you're going to get. What do you guys think about TickPick and the potential opportunity to go to the Dodgers postseason using that promo code?
Well, you know those tickets are going to be expensive, so any percentage you can knock off that price is worth it. And also the no fees is great too, because I know that when I'm searching for a ticket, even in advance or last minute, those fees add up, and sometimes you don't even realize there are fees until you go to the checkout and you realize you got to tack on a few more bucks, and it's not fun. So definitely, if you're going to the game, you got to go to TickPick. You just have to.
I would agree. Gas ain't getting cheaper. Got to save where you can.
I am celebrating this off day by going to Bring Me the Horizon at the Forum, and you can use TickPick to get very cheap tickets. So use that promo code Incline at checkout. Save some money, folks. All right, David, I'll let you drop this next category since it was your idea.
All right, so kind of like a end of season awards, if you will. So I have suggested the categories of offensive MVP, pitching MVP, biggest surprise of the year, unsung hero, best moment of the year. So why don't we start with offensive MVP? I think this one might be unanimous, but one of you want to kick it off?
I'll go. For me, it's Freddie Freeman. And I think we'll all be in agreement on this, but he was just a model of consistency, not just of consistency, but elite consistency. You could tell he really kind of retooled his game a lot in the sense that he focused on driving in runners, sacrifice flies, hitting against it, beating the shift. I mean, he was so crafty with the bat that, typically you'd see a lot more power from him. Only 21 home runs on the season, but that was because he was basically elite in every other offensive category. He had so many career highs in statistics this year, led Major League Baseball in doubles with 47, a career high. He led Major League Baseball in hits with 196. That's a career
199.
199. That's a career high. Led Major League Baseball. He scored this could be
117 runs.
117 runs. That's tied. Well, that's the National League lead, right? Because he was tied with Mookie.
Yep.
13 stolen bases out of nowhere, career high. Also, the thing that I wanted to point to is that with runners in scoring position, he hit 387.
Yeah.
With an OPS over 1,000, 74 runs batted in. Not every time, but it felt like when you needed a hit, when you needed an RBI, he was able to scratch a run across. And that was what was really tough for the Dodgers in 2021. Even though they won 106 games, they had a lot of trouble with runners in scoring position and just getting that run across when you got bases loaded and nobody out. How many times last year did we dread that situation because they could never come through? In this year, the Dodgers have done an amazing job, and Freddie Freeman has been the best at it, which is just getting the run across, just scratching a run across, making sure that you don't have these empty possessions. And he's just been fantastic, and being able to watch him on a daily basis every single day, it's been incredible. I mean, he's had a terrific season. He's the offensive MVP by far and away, and also played Gold Glove defense.
I also went with Freddie Freeman. You listed off a lot of the stats of why he is the Dodgers offensive MVP. He was essentially a 7-WAR player. So if you rolled that back a year, he would have been the unanimous MVP. That's a real MVP, unlike Bryce Harper. I don't know how that happened. The Phillies weren't even good last year. Ridiculous. But back to the point, the doubles, he was 2, maybe 3 shy of tying Sean Green or passing Sean Green for that Dodgers franchise record. So yeah, he didn't get the home runs, but he had a shit ton of doubles. The 918 OPS led the Dodgers as well. And he was an Ironman. The only reason he took a day off is because Dave Roberts forced him to after they clinched. Otherwise, he'd play all 162. He was in there every day, driving in runs, like you mentioned, hitting righties, hitting lefties. When he was up at the plate, you knew he was coming through the majority of the time.
Yeah, you guys pretty much covered it. Freddie Freeman is mine as well. And I'll just add a quick shout out to Trey Turner and Mookie Betts as well. Freeman definitely deserves this, but both of those guys had fantastic seasons. The Dodgers had 3 of the top 12 baseball players in WAR on their team, all hitting 1 through 3 in the lineup. All right. Second award is pitching MVP. I think this one will probably be unanimous as well. I will start this one off. I'm going to throw a little wrench in there. Obviously, Julio Urias deserves this, but I'm going to go with co-MVPs, and I'm going to throw Tyler Anderson in there as well. I think Urias, his season speaks for itself. Everybody who's listening to this podcast know what the fuck Julio Urias does every night. But I want to shout out Tyler Anderson as well. He's been the model of consistency for a signing that people weren't really too excited about. I mean, he started 28 games, pitched in 30, 178 innings, 257 ERA, 15-5 record, a 1.00 WHIP, 138 strikeouts, and was a quality start machine. He just kind of put his hard hat on, brought his lunch pail to work, did his job, and went home every single night. So I'm going with co-MVPs, and I think Julio Urias has a real shot at the Cy Young too.
Yeah, for me, it's Julio Urias. Just the fact that he took over that ace role in the starting rotation after Walker Buehler went down. Kershaw was out with injuries too. He has been everything everyone has asked for. And also he finished the season with the lowest ERA for any Mexican-born major league pitcher. So that's an incredible feat. The fact of the matter is that the Dodgers fan base has embraced him. He's the second coming of Fernando Valenzuela, even better, I think, than Fernando was. 17-7 this year. Like I said, insane ERA, led the National League with a 2.16 ERA and a 1.93 ERA plus, whip under 166 strikeouts. But I think one of the most important things as we're talking about the postseason is that he pitched 10 less innings than last year. Last year, he was completely gassed and they overused him, brought him out of the bullpen. That was a bad move. And this year they have been very conservative with him, but he's also been so efficient on the mound. I mean, I can't even remember at any point him having a bad outing. I mean, I'm sure it happened at some point, but even
game one when
his first
Bill
outing,
Plaschke said, it's over.
That to me was like one of the worst takes I've ever heard. I mean, the fact that like he was freaking out about
was it Plaschke or Hernandez?
It was Plaschke.
Okay.
I think Chris Camello said Dylan Hernandez, but I believe it was Plaschke.
Okay.
Dylan Hernandez had the bad Angels take. Anyway, the fact that like Bill Plaschke posited the idea that we should be worried about Julio Urias because his velocity was down is just asinine. I mean, give him 1 start. I mean, Christ. So I think that, you know, since then he just took off, and I think he should be the Cy Young. I mean, he is the best pitcher in the National League on the best team, and the Marlins are nowhere near making the playoffs. And so for me, he takes the cake. I'm sold on it. I hope he wins. I really, really hope he wins.
Round of Julio Urias. What more is there to add? We've been talking about him all season. He has taken the throne as the Dodgers ace. And every time he takes a step on the mound, you feel like you're going to get 5-6 quality innings and you're set up for success. And I think another interesting stat about Urias is I think, if I'm not mistaken, he had the best run support in 2021. Yeah. And that took a major dial back this season, a lot less run support for a while. But that didn't really phase him. The 1-2 run games he never really gave up any runs and kept the Dodgers in it to win it.
All right. Next is biggest surprise of the year.
Kevin, you want to start us off?
Yep. For me, it's Tony Gonslin, because entering the season, he was just another guy you're hoping to get some good starts, maybe come out of the bullpen. We didn't really know what we were going to get. I think a lot of fans were like, oh, he's a 5th starter. You know, maybe they'll acquire someone better at the deadline. Well, that didn't happen because Tony Gonsolin emerged as the Dodgers' first half ace, in my opinion. And he would have been the co-Cy Young if he didn't miss the last 6 weeks or so, because he did finish the stat line with a 16-1 record, a 2.14 ERA. He was an all-star. He made 24 starts, had an 0.87 whip, and I think it still holds up, but he had the lowest opponent batting average against. Every time the Dodgers seemed to lose a game, and then it was Gonslin's turn in the rotation, he was like the doctor, the medic. Pitch a great game. The Dodgers usually won. Gonsolin would have great stats, and he essentially threw like a Zach Greinke-like season, in my opinion. He was very efficient with his pitches. No one could really touch the slider. Had one of the best splitters in the sport, and so that's why for me the biggest surprise has to be Tony Gonsolin, because I thought he'd be good. I thought he would, make a name in the rotation, but he was the Cy Young candidate for a good second there.
For me, the biggest surprise, hands down, is Trayce Thompson. I don't think nobody, maybe Andrew Friedman, but nobody knew what we were going to get bringing Trayce Thompson back to the Dodgers. And it's just one of those magical things of players performing well in a Dodgers uniform and not performing well in any other uniform. And the fact that the Dodgers were able to get him after he was outcast by the Padres, they traded him for cash considerations from the Detroit Tigers. And all this guy has done since joining the team is hit to the tune of a 901 OPS, 145 OPS plus, 13 bombs, 39 RBIs. And I think the most impressive thing is that he only did it in 74 games. He did not start every day, even though he definitely earned a starting role and should have been in there every single day with the way he was hitting. But I think the remarkable thing is that it didn't matter. He stayed sharp no matter what. And it wasn't just empty stats. He would come up in big spots and hit massive home runs, often of the 3-run shot variety. And what a special story he's been. And he's played his way onto this postseason roster. Not only he played himself into the starting lineup during the postseason, there's not much more you can say about Trayce Thompson. He has been a gem. And for me, he's the biggest surprise.
I'm going to go with Chris Martin because I was not expecting anything from him whatsoever. I did not peg him as a guy who would even make the playoff roster. This is at the trade deadline when I wanted them to get some, solid reliever, who was having a solid year. When they got this guy, he had a 4.31 ERA in Chicago in 31 innings, 15 earned runs. Since he's been a Dodger, 23.2 innings, 4 earned runs. He's given up 2 earned runs in 2 in August, 2 in September. One in the 2 in September was in the same game. So since September 2nd, he has not given up an earned run. He has a 31-1 strikeout to walk ratio as a Dodger. He looks unhittable. So this has been my biggest surprise far and away. And once you get into playoffs, you're going to have to rely on your elite relievers. We saw that in 2020, which is one of the reasons the Dodgers won the World Series. This guy is going to be huge if the Dodgers are going to win the World Series. You get the 3-headed monster with Phillips, Martin, and Vesia. Completely out of left field for me. I was not expecting this. This is my biggest surprise by far.
He's been a sky full of stars. And Dusty Baker, I know you've already apologized, telling me I didn't know what I was talking about, but Chris Martin, baby.
All right. And our final segment. No, second to last one. Unsung hero.
All right, I'll start us off. So I had a tough time picking just one person, but I'm going to go collectively with the bullpen. I don't think
such a cop out.
Why is that a cop out?
Just the bullpen.
Well,
can I just have one guy?
Can I make my case?
All right.
The bullpen, because of all of the significant injuries they've had this year. Blake Trinan, Tommy Kahnle's been out for a while. Bruce Dark-Gratterall been out for a while. Hudson just absolutely died on the mound one night, and that was it. And they didn't have any of these guys pretty much the whole year. The fact that they've been able to piece together just, a collection of dudes that have become elite, Evan Phillips, Chris Martin, Alex Vesia, it didn't matter. It was whoever they plugged in there did well, with the exception of Bickford, which was kind of a drop off from last season.
And Kimbrel.
And then, right. And I was going to say, and they overcame a bad closer in Craig Kimbrel. Now, granted, the Dodgers had an insane run differential, so there weren't that many close games, but the fact that they rocked for the entire season with Craig Kimbrel as the closer, and it was an adventure every single time. He was the only real outlier. Everyone else was locked down. You'd get from the 6th, 7th, and 8th easy. It wasn't even a contest. And then the 9th was a fucking adventure with Kimbrel out there, and they were able to overcome that, remove him as the closer, not skip a beat. It's been an amazing year for this bullpen, and I couldn't be happier. That's why they're the unsung hero for me.
All right, Kevin. Actually, so Jake picked a sentient being for his. So what do you got?
Yeah, I'll give you a player.
Thank you.
It's Trayce Thompson, and Jake already laid it all out there, so I don't need to repeat everything he just said because I agree with all the points he made. But I'll just add that the Dodgers bench really sucked for a while. It was basically McKinstry sometimes. It took months for Jake Lamb to make an appearance, and God, it was so bad. I can't even remember who else was coming off the bench. I guess technically Rios, who was fine, but then he disappeared. Alberto, who's as useless as Scotch tape on a wall. So Trayce Thompson really sparked and ignited the Dodgers bench and earned his way into the starting lineup. And so when guys like Chris Taylor were out or Gavin Lux couldn't play, so they could start Thompson and move Taylor to second, etc. He's been Mr. Consistent for the most part. And like Jake said, a guy that's just always ready no matter what the moment of the game was.
All right. My unsung hero is Mitch White. He started 10 games for the Dodgers. He had a 3.70 ERA, came in when we needed it, and was just filled the void for us. Okay, we do not get where we are without Mitch White. Okay?
What about Ryan Pepio?
He came
What about
in,
Michael Grove?
He came in, he did his job well, and then his gift was getting shipped to Toronto. So when the Dodgers win a World Series, I would volunteer to personally give Mitch White a World Series ring. But
you got mad at me for picking the bullpen.
I'm
picked Mitch
just
White.
picking around. My actual unsung hero, although Mitch White deserves credit, is Gavin Lux, and I'll tell you why.
All right, there we go.
In the early parts of the season, the only production the Dodgers were getting was the top three in the lineup: Betts, Freeman, Turner. The middle of the lineup in the early parts of the season was a disaster. And Gavin Lux in the 9-hole would set the table for the first 3-4 months of the season when they were getting no production from anywhere else. He would get on base, he would score runs, set the table, and that was when the division was won. This division has been over for months. When the Dodgers were in the thick of the division race, which was for this season, the early parts of the season, Gavin Lux was one of the team's best producers and best on-base men. So he is the unsung hero for me, and Mitch White gets my honorary secondary award.
Thank God you went with that. That's a good answer.
Thank you. All right, final category here is best moment of the season.
Go ahead, Kev.
So I don't really know yet because I kind of like to wait for the postseason. Obviously, the regular season, this is what we're talking about, and we're gonna have
regular season.
We're gonna have the whole Incline Awards year 2 later on, so the fans will get to vote. It's tough to really just pinpoint one, but I guess for now, I did like the Pujols 700 home run game, but that obviously wasn't technically a Dodgers moment. I think I'm just gonna go with that White Sox game where Tony La Russa intentionally walked.
Yeah, I had that one too.
Trey Turner?
Yep.
I think he intentionally walked Trey Turner.
With 2 strikes?
Which infuriated Max Muncy. And I know it was a comeback. I don't know if that was what sparked the comeback. But regardless, Muncy hit the 2 or 3 home run bomb. And that was just hilarious. And that was the beginning of the end of the Chicago White Sox season. The team that I thought would win the AL pennant and maybe the biggest disaster in a number of years. Cause wow. But yeah, that Muncy one.
I toyed with, talking about some of the big comebacks that they had, like the one in St. Louis in July where they were down 6-0. I mean, that was just an absolute surgical comeback, and it was an amazing thing. But I think the best overall moment is Kershaw passing Don Sutton.
All right. Well, I guess I'll just go fuck myself because those were my 2.
Oh, shit.
Go ahead. Take it home for us.
David's been so mad at me since I selected the bullpen as my unsung hero. He can't get over it. Anyway, Kershaw passing Don Sutton for most strikeouts in franchise history. I think that if a Dodgers record isn't held by Sandy Koufax or even Don Drysdale for that matter, I want Clayton Kershaw to hold that record. And so for him to pass Don Sutton at Dodger Stadium, it was an incredible moment for him. And I'm so happy that he did it in a Dodgers uniform, that he didn't go to any other team, and that he stayed with us, and he's going to be a main fixture in this Dodgers rotation in the playoffs, which we were sorely missing last year.
Yeah. So like I said, those were both the 2 I wrote down. So I will spare the redundancy here, but I just want to add on the Kershaw front, he is 193 strikeouts away from 3,000 and 3 wins away from 200 wins. So sign him up for next year, stay healthy, and he's going to get both of those milestones.
He said he was going to pitch in 2023, so great chance it could happen.
Can I throw an additional bonus category, you guys, real quick?
Please, yeah.
Okay, so I want to go with biggest disappointment.
I got mine.
So I'll go first in case you guys need to think about that. My biggest disappointment too. What?
I said you can cut me out of this one too.
Okay, maybe you have the same one as me.
Okay.
Chris Taylor is my biggest disappointment this year. I think after signing that big 4-year, $60 million contract, coming off an all-star season, we know what he's meant to this team in the postseason and all of that. He has had a really bad season. He's struggled to stay healthy, but he's also played in 118 games, which is enough of a sample size to make a judgment on him. Batting 221, 304 on base percentage, 373 slugging, 677 OPS, only 10 homers and 43 RBIs. It's just been a struggle for him, and it's been a little disappointing that he's not been able to be as productive as we know he can be. But hopefully his neck is feeling better and he can get some of that playoff magic back and be a formidable part of this team in the postseason. But yeah, he's got to be my biggest disappointment. Signing that contract and having this year is just not what you want to see.
All right, so I didn't really have any big disappointments. I know who Kevin's is, so it's not going to be mine. But my biggest disappointment is, and frankly, I didn't have high expectations here, but I just don't have really any disappointments. So my answer is going to be Joey Gallo. I think he's been way worse than Dodgers fans think he has been as a Dodger. I mean, I think he's been really, really bad. And, I was not expecting pretty much anything, but somehow I've gotten less than I expected from him. So that's kind of all I have to say on that. But when you win 111 games, I don't really have too many disappointments.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll be honest, my initial answer was going to be Chris Taylor, because I thought given the fact that he was paid big time, that would spark him and he'd have a big follow-up campaign to this All-Star year a year ago, and he just really has not shown much. And then I thought, since I've only had a couple minutes to really think about it, I could have gone with Craig Kimbrell, but that's just way too easy. He's probably everyone's biggest disappointment for the most part. And I honestly can't really be disappointed because when the trade was made, I said it was a bad trade from the start. So how could I be disappointed in something that I didn't have faith in? On the other hand, when the Dodgers signed this guy, Hanser Alberto, I was fired up. I was like, awesome. They signed a versatile infielder. He can play some outfield. He can crush lefties. He just makes contact and BAP hits them to death. Well, Alberto has been pretty bad this season. Maybe the worst player on the team by WAR metrics. I'm not counting the Eddie Alvarez's and McKinstry's who barely played. But what did Alberto do this season? He couldn't even really establish himself as a great platoon hitter as well. I would have to pull up the stats to see what he did against lefties, so I'll stall here. But defensively, he was underwhelming. He had negative outs above average across the board. His defensive run saves were pretty terrible too. He's not a better defender than Lux at second. He's not a better defender than JT or Muncy at third. So he's just a cheerleader, and we're not hiring guys to be cheerleaders here on the Dodgers. So
he's a really good cheerleader though, dude.
So yeah, against lefties, he ended up finishing with a 272 batting average against lefties. I don't know how that's possible, but he did have a 279 on base. So he drew like one walk and a 667 OPS. Against righties, a 511 OPS. So
how many games did he play?
He played in looks like, well, he had 155 at bats. And in terms of games played, it looks like he played in 72 games, 158 plate appearances. So
that's crazy. And he's been with the team the whole year, and Trace Thompson's played in 2 more games than him.
Yeah, that's a good point. So yeah, that's my answer. Cool. All right. Anything else real quick subject wise? Cause I have one more question. This comes from Safety Stars on Twitter. Thoughts on Tyler Anderson getting paid by the Dodgers in the offseason? I think the Dodgers will definitely flirt and probably end up giving him the qualifying offer, which is like a 1-year, $19 million contract, something around that range, which I think would be great value. I think when Anderson could test the market, he could make somewhere along the lines of 4 years, $75 million or something close to that. I don't know if the Dodgers feel pressed to re-sign him. I guess things will kind of lay out with first Kershaw. We know Buehler is out all of 2023. Urias has 1 year left on his contract, but then they're going to have Bobby Miller. They're going to have Pepio, probably Gavin Stone.
Dustin May will be fully back.
Dustin May, Gonslin. And then you get either Heaney back on a cheap 1-year deal, or you take another flyer on someone and you try to fix that guy. So my gut tells me Tyler Anderson will probably sign with a new team and be paid to be as the team's number 2, maybe even number 1, depending on which franchise it is.
Yeah, I think if he gets a long-term offer from another team, he'll probably go and do that. And I wouldn't, as the Dodgers, I wouldn't sign him to that contract you just threw out there, that 4 years, $75 million, because I think I'd like to see him put together 2 seasons like this before I would hand out a contract. But he's also getting a little older, so if they can, sign him to a qualifying offer or get him back, for a 1 or 2 year deal, then I'm all for it.
I agree. I think they'll send the qualifying offer, and he does seem like a guy who would want to stay. So I wouldn't rule it out, but if he gets an offer like that, he should take it, and the Dodgers don't necessarily need to match it.
The qualifying offer is still a thing, right? I remember they were talking about getting rid of it, but okay.
Yeah, still there.
It was supposed to be removed, but something happened with the voting recently. So guys like Trey Turner are going to get the qualifying offers attached to his name, which will make the free agent market more interesting. Don't need to really talk about that right now. So yeah, anything else you guys want to cover? Because I have one other thing real quick.
I do have an out of left field, but what do you got?
Do your out of left field, and then I'll do a idiot.
Okay, so my out of left field is something I'm very passionate about, and it makes me very angry. When I go to the grocery store, I don't sign up to do math. And when I go to the paper towel aisle, I have to do math. They force math on me. You go to the paper towel aisle, you're looking at all these possible options, and it's like 12 mega rolls equals 24 rolls, and then 16 equals 18. And it's, what the hell are we doing? I did not sign up for this. I want uniform measurements for paper towels. This has gone on long enough. I mean, do I need to bring out my calculator when I'm going grocery shopping? Why are they forcing my brain to do math when I just need paper towels? I just need to dry my hands off. I didn't sign up to do some E equals MC squared to figure out the best deal on paper towels. This is ridiculous. And the fact that this is not a widespread discussion in our society is baffling to me, because I mean, what are we doing? What are we doing? Why are they doing this? Why are they intentionally trying to confuse us? What is the motive behind this? I don't get it. Why don't you just say there's 8 paper towels in here? 8 rolls, not mega rolls equals what is even the conversion rate of mega rolls to regular rolls? There's no key. There's nothing. I'm just confused when I go paper towel shopping. It's what are we doing this for?
Does this apply to toilet paper? Because I feel like that's
kind of, yeah, but it's mostly paper towels, but toilet paper as well. Just the whole paper product aisle. Why are we doing math?
Also, I hate the self-checkout. I don't understand why we're asked to do a job we're not trained for. Like, I just feel like there should be more aisles that you can go with the conveyor belt and someone to help you, because sometimes you just have too many items to go through the self-checkout. And then when you got a problem, then you got to make a whole deal out of it and flag some guy down. But they're always forcing the self-checkout. You can do self-checkout. You can, like, I don't want to do that work on my own. I don't.
It's the best. Because
you completely bypassed the math here. You didn't even comment on the paper towel math. Are you just okay with this?
Yeah.
Like, you're just like, okay, like 18 mega rolls.
It's never, honestly, to be honest with you, it's never something that I've ever really encountered or had an issue with.
So you just grab one. You're like, okay, that I guess I'm just trusting this math here.
Give me the mega roll, baby.
All right.
Whatever's the cheapest, unless it's like the shit brand. But
yeah, you gotta look to see, if you can get a little discount, like a Vaughn's discount or something.
Yeah, I do that. And I still am confused when I walk out of the paper towel aisle. And I just am constantly wondering if I made the right choice or not.
It's all marketing. I could do a whole 40 minutes on that on grocery stores, but self-checkout's the best, because first of all,
I want to hear that podcast.
You don't have to talk to people in self-checkout. Second of all, I hate waiting in large lines, especially with the old people or the big chubby people, and they're like 2 shopping carts and it takes like 10 minutes.
And you got the grandmas who bring the checkbook.
Yes, the grandmas that write the checks and it doesn't go through, or someone's card isn't being read or gets declined, or Sally Mae has to complain because she claimed it was 10 cents cheaper on her yogurts than what it's all that ordeal. And so then they got to send the bag boy to go check. And here I am just standing here.
Or how about when someone's like, wait, can you guys wait a second? I got to go grab something.
Yeah. Oh my God. Those people need to be taken out back and slapped.
I'm with you, Kevin. Except my only complaint on the self-checkout is like the bagging area where you like put your scanned items is never big enough.
Not big enough.
Yeah.
No.
Yep.
That's something they could improve.
Yeah.
All right. So this final idiot of the week for the regular season has to go out to Marcus Stroman.
2-time winner now.
The 2-time. He tweeted on October 4th. I think this, and it was before number 62 by Aaron Judge actually occurred. He tweeted, Judge is having one of the most historic seasons of all time, but how do you not give the MVP to Ohtani? What he's doing has never been done before and may never happen again. Both players are more than deserving. There's no wrong opinion. Well, first of all, or option, but regardless, the wrong option opinion belongs to you, Marcus Stroman, because first of all, stop giving MVPs to players on bad teams. David made a great point that the Yankees would probably be nowhere near this pennant race without Aaron Judge. Second of all,
they would be the Angels.
He'd hit 62 home runs in a season, something that's never been done before in the American League.
Yeah.
An AL record that's 61 years old, broke by Roger Maris with 61 home runs in the year 1961. And Babe Ruth to Maris to Judge, all Yankees. The WAR is like 10. I think he's breaking numerous offensive records. I don't think he ended up finishing with it, but he was the Triple Crown guy for a while. And I hate the counter argument. Well, does he pitch? Well, does Ohtani play the field? Because Aaron Judge is a goddamn good defensive center fielder, right fielder, and he's robbed players of extra bases, home runs. So like I was the point is Judge is doing something that's never been done before. And that's 62 home runs in the American League, clearly the best offensive player in baseball. They already gave the MVP to Ohtani last season anyway, so give it to someone new.
If this season for Aaron Judge is not able to beat Ohtani, then Ohtani will never lose. Because when you look at, and I brought this argument up before, where you look at the race between Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah, he got hoed too.
But Vladimir Guerrero Jr. had an incredible season in 2021. And if it weren't for Ohtani, he would be the MVP. But it does take a season like the one Aaron Judge is having with 62 home runs, the AL record, and also leading everyone else in every other offensive category pretty much except batting average, which he almost won the Triple Crown. To me, and he's playing for a playoff contending team, and what he's meant to that team in WAR. There's no other option. I know Ohtani's had an incredible season, and yes, he's had a really great season on the mound, but overall, offensively, defensively, Aaron Judge takes the cake.
The only thing I have to say on this is if Ben Verlander and Marcus Stroman are on one side of the argument and everybody else is on the other side, you can guess which one is right.
Good point. And we'll close it at that. All right. We're running out of time here. So any final thoughts? This is the last regular season episode before we start prepping for the postseason.
I'm looking forward to an incredible couple of days of baseball where you've got 4 or 5 games in a day. It's going to be a lot of fun beginning on Friday, and it's going to be really fun to really closely watch this Mets Padres series, because those are 2 teams that Dodgers fans absolutely despise, not only the teams, but the fan bases. So it'll be fun to see which fan base crumbles.
I'm just ready. I'm ready for the playoffs. I think this is going to be a very solid postseason for Dodgers fans. I'm not going to say what I want to say, but if they just hit the ball well and score runs, I said on the last week, if they can score 5 runs a game, this is going to be a very, very enjoyable postseason for Dodgers fans.
Yeah, on the fans front, my final power rankings for worst fans in Major League Baseball. Number 1, the Astros, for many obvious reasons. Number 2, I have to go with the Padres. We didn't even bring this up, but the whole tweeting and talking points that this is their first legitimate postseason appearance since
They're
2006.
so goddamn stupid.
Yeah, go F yourselves, San Diego. And then number 3, they've fallen, but Mets fans who used to be the worst, their true colors are going to come out in the postseason.
Like that Frank the Tank guy.
Oh, I love
Jesus.
Frank the Tank, dude. He's hilarious.
Oh,
So, yeah.
He needs help.
He's like the BSB of the Mets.
He needs help.
Thank you guys so much for listening to the Incline Dodgers podcast with us all season long. Help us out, give us a 5-star rating, and subscribe wherever you listen to this podcast. And follow us on Twitter. Please leave a 5-star review if you like us. That will help us go a long way. Thank you guys so much. And go Dodgers. 2022 in the books for the regular season, that is.